the thing that's very hard about this situation is that while there is a growing body of valid, peer-reviewed scientific literature about this, it's by and large not accepted by the medical community, and there are just desperate people in desperate suffering and desperate situations with no help. There are a handful of psychiatrists across the world. There's Dr. Mark Horowitz. He's a psychiatric registrar in London. He's Australian, who has published a paper on the safety prescribing of antidepressants, and that has been starting to infiltrate into the medical world and be adopted by psychiatrists. There was a BBC Panorama documentary. Mark was on it, as well as some other individuals who are prominent in the field. And I think, like my doctor is British, and she watched the BBC documentary, and it was the first time that anything that this was about a year ago, that anything I'd said in the last 2 years even got through to her, because anything I shared with her wasn't valid, because I'm a patient. And I was showing her psychiatric drug withdrawal coaches, testimonies online, things from forums, things from survivor stories, drug reviews of people experiencing what I was experiencing, and it just made no difference. And I think that's the saddest and most frustrating, alienating and lonely part of this whole situation and the hopelessness of being this ill and being made ill by a drug. I didn't choose to go on this side of the pharmaceutical fence. Like, this happened to me. I was never an anti-pharma. I never thought that this was even possible. And every day I still wonder to myself, how is this possible? How is it this bad? How has it gone on for this long? Like, it's just one of those types of experiences, I guess, that is indescribable unless you've experienced it. Just the severity of this and how long it goes for is, for some people, for people who have been on for a very, very long time or have been on multiple things and rapid tapered or cold turkeyed, especially off SSRIs, also off benzodiazepines. And that's the thing that people know about benzos, because they've been around longer, that you can have dependence withdrawal from them. But for SSRIs, I think that's only just emerging now, that they have quite similar, they may not have the same mechanism of action on the brain, but they have very similar withdrawals. And all of the same things can basically happen from either of them. The reason for that, I won't speak about benzos because that's not what I've gone through, but what you're doing when you're prescribing someone an SSRI is you are causing the brain to hold extra serotonin in the brain rather than releasing it to go circulate around the body and do its thing. And as a result, you have an excess unnatural amount of serotonin, and so your serotonin receptors downregulate because there is too much serotonin and they don't need, so your brain is actually working for you, adapting to this unnatural presence of this drug. This increase in serotonin, it helps with anxiety and depression, it helps with mine. But over a very, very long period of time, or over, any period of time, but longer is worse. Your brain has fully adapted to the presence of this drug. It relies on it. It's adapted its whole downstream neurochemical, biochemical synthesis. We have serotonin receptors in our whole body. We have neurotransmitters in our whole body. The brain goes to the central nervous system. The central nervous system affects every function. It affects vision, vestibular function, smell, taste, sound, proprioception, feeling, pain, gut, everything. And when you have a long-term drug that's embedded in your system and you pull it out, anything can happen. Your body can become completely dysregulated if it doesn't adapt back, and that's why tapering down slowly is what is recommended by people like Dr. Mark Horowitz, who are now doing this research. And slow is slower than you think. Slow isn't a month, 2 months, 3 months. Slow might, for someone like me, probably should have been 2 years, at least a year. But once the damage is done, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can't put, Humpty back on the wall. And, my issues were mostly vestibular. My vestibular system is severely compromised now as just a result of the dysregulation of my autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is governing all of this, and when you suddenly do something like this, that's what can happen.